Have you ever noticed how, on the surface, everything looks aligned? The vision's clear, the strategy makes sense, leadership agrees on the direction, and yet execution feels heavy. Decisions slow down, momentum fades, team hesitates, not because they're confused, but because the signals just don't line up. This is why teams lose momentum even when leaders agree. And it comes down to one thing: what gets reinforced after the meeting? That's what we're going to unpack. In the last video, I talked about why vision loses momentum after a kickoff meeting. Not because people don't care, but because focus isn't protected once execution begins. This is the next layer of that problem. See, leadership teams leave the room aligned on the vision. Everyone agrees on the direction, but once the work starts, different messages begin getting reinforced. One leader pushes for speed, another signals caution, one encourages bold decisions, another quietly steps in and reworks all the decisions that were made. None of this is really intentional. None of it comes from a bad leadership place, but to the team, the signal becomes mixed. And when people are already fighting the pull of day-to-day urgency, mixed signals from leadership don't just slow momentum, they fracture it. So teams hesitate, they wait, they scan the room before committing, not because they're confused, but because they're trying not to get burned. This is why alignment in the meeting isn't enough. Momentum doesn't fade because leaders disagree. It fades because leaders reinforce different messages once execution begins. And once you see this, it changes how you lead. This is the shift great leadership teams make. See, leadership isn't the meeting itself. It's what happens afterwards, when the room clears and the noise returns and the real decisions start getting made. See, strong leaders don't assume everyone's going to stay aligned. They actually expect people to drift, especially when different leaders start reinforcing different things. Because here's the reality. Your team doesn't experience leadership one voice at a time. They experience it all at once. So after the meeting, the real work isn't repeating the vision. It's making sure the same message keeps getting reinforced everywhere. In decisions, in trade-offs, in what gets pushed forward and what gets shut down. Not through micromanagement, not by policing each other, but through consistency. And here's your role in that. The message doesn't stay consistent by accident. It stays consistent because someone is paying attention. Your job isn't to control what everyone says, it's to be clear enough and aligned enough that there's nothing left to interpret. When leadership teams aren't clear on what they're reinforcing, teams end up filling the gap on their own. And that's when momentum starts to slip. So let's talk about what actually needs to be reinforced, because this is where most teams get it wrong. Momentum doesn't break because leaders didn't communicate enough. It breaks because they didn't reinforce the same things together. High-performing leadership teams don't try to reinforce everything. They get aligned on a few things that matter most, and they're relentless about reinforcing them once execution begins. There are three I want to highlight. First, the real priorities. Not the full strategy deck, not the long-term vision statement, the few outcomes that actually define success right now. When different leaders reinforce different priorities, teams start to hedge. They keep options open. They delay commitment. But when leaders consistently reinforce the same priorities in meetings and in decisions, focus sharpens and momentum builds on itself. See, clarity doesn't come from saying more. It comes from being clear about what matters and what doesn't. Second, the behaviors that actually matter. This is where alignment either becomes real or quietly falls apart. Do you want people to take ownership? Do you want them to make bold calls? Do you want them to move fast with imperfect information? Then those behaviors have to be reinforced when it counts. Not just when outcomes are good, but also when decisions don't always work out. If leaders say they want courage, but only reward caution, guess what? Teams play it safe and stop rocking the boat. If leaders say they want ownership, but step in at the first sign of discomfort, people stop stepping up. Teams don't listen to what leaders say, they watch what leaders reinforce. And third, the signal that says, I got your back. This is the multiplier. People don't move with confidence because they're motivated. They move with confidence because they feel safe. Safe to decide, safe to speak up, safe to make the call without getting second guessed later. When leaders consistently reinforce, I got your back, make the call, something shifts. Ownership goes up, energy rises, momentum starts sustaining itself. That's when you hear people say, I love what I do. I love my job. I love the people I work with. Not because the work is easy, but because the environment is clear and supportive. And this is where it all comes together. When leaders reinforce the same priorities, the same behaviors, and the same signals of trust, teams stop scanning the room for mixed messages. They stop waiting to see which leader they need to please. They stop hedging their decisions. They feel empowered to act. Execution gets lighter, not because the work is easier, but because the rules of engagement are finally clear. That's when momentum stops feeling forced and starts feeling earned. Momentum doesn't break because teams don't care or lack commitment. It breaks when leaders send mixed signals by reinforcing different messages. Here's the truth. Your team already knows what matters. Not from the strategy deck, not from the kickoff meeting. They know by watching what leadership cares about, what leadership rewards, and what leadership protects as a group. So when things get messy, do your leaders reinforce one message or they send mixed ones? If you're ready to elevate your leadership, brand, influence, and impact, I've got something for you. Download my free ebook, The CEO Shift. How to empower your leaders to think like entrepreneurs and lead like owners. Inside, I'll walk you through how to elevate your leadership, drive alignment, and build a high-performance team that truly owns the mission. If you're not quite ready for that yet, then let me send you a signed copy of my book, Freedom to Experiment. It's all about reigniting energy, sharpening focus, and building momentum that lasts. I'll cover the cost of the book. All I ask is you to just handle shipping. Hit the link in the description, and we'll take care of the rest. Okay, if this message hit home, here's how you can help others find it too. Give this video a like, drop a comment below related to your business, and of course, subscribe, because every week I share strategies to help you and your team embrace change, focus your efforts, and accelerate results. Remember this, you're just one idea away. I'll see you in the next video.